Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Tennessee Achieves webinar today, where we're going to take a dive into what mentoring with Tennessee Achieves looks like in 2022. To kind of give you a little heads up here, a little intro into it, mentoring in 2022 is going to look quite a bit different than it looked in 2021, which I think we could all agree, if you've mentored with us prior to this year, looked very different than the previous 13 years. So we are really glad that you were here today to learn more. We're going to give you a little bit of setup into why we think mentoring is important. Then we're going to talk about what it looks like in 2022. And we got a few different ways that we think that you can help us out. My name is Graham Thomas. For those of you that don't know me, I was watching the names come in as the webinar started to see a lot of familiar names on there. And some of you like Beth Duffield and Lindsay Frilling that have been with us for years and years, and so glad that you're here and that everyone's here to learn a little bit more about what we're thinking for next year. A couple of really quick housekeeping items before I dive into the presentation today. You'll notice that all of your cameras are turned off and that you're muted. We still do want to make sure that we answer all of your questions. So at the bottom of the screen, you have the Q&A box, the chat feature. Please feel free to put your questions and answers there. Tyler Ford and Dalton Sauer on our team are on the back end here to type out any questions. I'll also keep an eye on them and answer some. And at the end, as they're coming in, I'll just answer them live on here. So certainly want to get your feedback and appreciate that you are here today. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick, and then we will get started. So just to kind of set the stage a little bit about why we think mentoring is important. So every single year, we are getting more than 60,000 students to apply for Tennessee Promise through the Tennessee Achieves program. That looks like about 89% of all seniors in Tennessee coming through our program. When you couple that with the Ayers Foundation working in the 5 counties they have previously operated in, mostly in rural West Tennessee, well over 90% of the seniors in Tennessee are applying for Tennessee Promise, but 89% of all seniors in Tennessee come through Tennessee Achieves. 78% of the first-time freshmen at Tennessee community colleges are coming through our program, and 86% of all community college graduates in the state come through the Tennessee Achieves program. A little demographic information here in this next slide. 56% of students that go through Tennessee Achieves are eligible for a federal Pell Grant, which means that they are coming from low-income families across the state, 40% of which self-report that they are the first in their family to go to college. I always think that this number probably skews a little bit low. When you look at college attainment data for Tennessee, you see that about 45% or so of adults in Tennessee have a post-secondary credential. The fact that the next generation, only 40% of these students are reporting as the first in their family to go to college, seems low. We are pulling this off of the FAFSA. There's also just not a really great definition of what exactly it means to be a first generation college student. We typically think of it as, would you be the first person in your family to earn a college credential, post-secondary credential, if you went through the program and were to graduate. And then we pulled some data. Chrissy, our executive director, presented to the National Science Board recently. So we pulled some data for them to see what exactly are our students majoring in. And you see that 51% of them are either majoring in health or a STEM-related field. I think this is a really positive stat for our program because those are the most in-demand fields in Tennessee. So what that means is that our students are going to go earn a credential, and then they're going to be desirable to our employers, which means they should find meaningful employment rather quickly and earn a wage that they can support themselves and their future families. And then at the bottom, you just see exactly what these programs cost. $32 million is the annual scholarship amount. That is the money that's going directly to the colleges on the students' behalf. Comes out to about $1,100 per student. And then Tennessee Achieves annual operating budget. That's us. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Our annual operating budget comes in at about $2.5 million. Here is a slide that it shows a couple of things. First, it shows the impact of Tennessee Promise and what it had on the college going rate in Tennessee. Tennessee Promise was launched the first year for high school students. It's the graduating class of 2015. And you can see that we increased the college going rate in Tennessee by 4.6%, which was better than the previous 7 years combined. Really big jump. We honestly were hoping that we might get like a 3% bump, and we got a 4.6%. Over the course of the next few years, you see we had a steady rise, started to plateau a little bit there in 18 and 19, even trending downwards a little bit. And then the bad news in this presentation is the COVID effect. You can see that all of the gains that we made over the course of 6 years of Tennessee Promise, we lost in 1 year. Our college going rate is now the lowest that it has been since 2010. And all the gains from 14 to 15 and 14 through 17 there are gone. And I will tell you, anecdotally, we're hearing a lot of things here. We're hearing students are tired of online classes. And for this class of 2020, which is our most recent data here, these were students that were going to have to go fully online last year. And so they didn't want to do online classes anymore after doing their senior year online. We're hearing that students are taking these jobs that are available. Fast food industry, for example, some of them are paying upwards of $19, $20 an hour. When you're 18 years old and you're making $19 or $20 an hour, that's really good money. Fast forward to when you're 27, 28 years old, maybe you're married with a kid or two, it's probably not such great money. And so we have to figure out in Tennessee, and I think across the country, how do we reframe the value proposition of going to college when students in the short term can make money like that? Again, I think it's a lot about what I just mentioned. Like, yes, short term, that is a win for students. They can make more money than they've ever made before. But long term, in a lot of fields that are fairly low opportunity, not all, but in a lot of fields that don't provide a lot of growth opportunity, we've got to understand and present college in a way for students that they continue to be interested in, and that we get these numbers turned back around. And that's really where, on the access side, we need your help. So what exactly is mentoring in 2022 going to look like? The roles of the mentor are not going to change. We still want you to be that task manager, keeping students on track, making sure that they are getting their paperwork in, they're submitting their community service hours, that they're making progress towards college while remaining eligible. You're still going to be that trusted college resource, the person that the students can reach out to when they have questions, when they get a letter from financial aid and they don't know what it means, when they just don't know the next step. You're still going to be that trusted person they can reach out to, get those questions answered. And then the part of this that I have argued in my 12 years at tnAchieves is the most important as we continue to navigate these very uncertain times. The encouragement piece, I think, is more important than ever. And I already thought it was the most important. Just said, hey, you can do this, and we're going to go on this journey together. And yeah, we don't know what classes are going to look like today, tomorrow, or next week. The environment is constantly changing, and we understand that. And for many of our students, specifically ones that are going to be the first in their family to go, it's an intimidating process already. I will tell you, one of our staff members we had returned to the office. We made it for about 3 weeks before we decided that we needed to send everyone back working from home in the current climate. But one of our staff members was in the office. I could hear her on the phone with the student. She was having a conversation, and this is, I think, a lot of like the conversations that you're having with students. They were having this really funny conversation. Ellie was our staff member, was debating with a student who had the better Coca-Cola products, McDonald's or Taco Bell. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was listening to this conversation. I was giggling a little bit, thinking this was a little bit ridiculous. But what that conversation evolved into was a really robust conversation about the fears this student had about starting college this fall. And there was, some online COVID parts of that, but there are also just some of those general anxiety type fears. And Ellie worked through them, was very patient with this student, and helped this student resolve that issue. And so that's the role that you're playing. That's the role that our staff plays sometimes. Ellie is one of our coaches who is working specifically with our low income students. Only about 14% of our population has a coach right now. But that is the kind of things that our students need help with, and the role that you're playing to help get them onto a college campus. Mentoring in 2022, you're still going to have tnAchieves Connect. Hopefully you have enjoyed that platform. We've had some really good feedback on it. You're still able to call, email, and text, and we're going to offer some in-person options that we're going to talk about here in just a second. still trying to keep that time commitment to about 1 hour per month or 12 hours per year. So what exactly do your options look like next year? Every single mentor, just like this year, will still have access to tnAchieves Connect. In our surveys that we have done with you, our current mentors this year, the your response about Connect has been through the roof. It seems to be overwhelmingly positive. Yes, we have heard that it can be a challenge to get students on the platform and using the platform. I don't think there's any huge surprise there if you've mentored with us before this year. We know that that's a challenge, but what we've heard is that for your students that are on it and using it, you really, really like it. Also, we're hoping that you find it to be a useful tool just in terms of tracking your students. You can log into Connect right now and see which of your students have submitted community service hours for the December 1st deadline. Over the summer, we were populating when they applied and when they registered full-time. So you were getting data live, the same data that we get to track students, you were getting it, and it updates overnight. So live is a stretch, but you were getting it within 24 hours. And you knew exactly where your students were in the process. So hopefully you found this to be useful. We're going to continue to find different ways to incentivize students to get on it and use it. But when we surveyed you recently, 2/3 of the mentors that responded to the survey told us they would like an in-person option for 2022. So we got 3 options for you for next year. First, if you like using Connect and calling and video chatting and texting and emailing, you can do that. You can mentor completely virtually using those resources. We will support you through that just like we did this year. And you can make an impact on a student without ever leaving your house or your office or wherever it is that you are working as a mentor. The other options that we're going to plan to provide you, and again, keep in mind specifically for this first option, we will continue to monitor the climate and the status of the current pandemic. And if the numbers continue to move in the wrong direction, we will pivot because we're not going to create an event where we have some sort of COVID outbreak because we ask students to get together for their scholarship. That's not something that we're comfortable with. But one thing that we are very excited about for next year is what we're calling the tnAchieves Open House. We are going to host these at college campuses across the state. Essentially, we're going to block off a 2 or 3 hour period at a college campus where you can invite your students to come and meet you there. If you mentored with us previous this year, you remember those big crowded meetings. I think back to like Blackman High School or McGavick or Bearden in Knoxville, Germantown in Memphis was a huge meeting. You think about those meetings where there's 500, 600, 700, 800 people in the cafeteria. It was really crowded. It was really hot. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to block off several hours. You can invite your students to come and sit down at a table and meet with you face to face. We will have a staff person there. No formal presentation. We'll be available to answer your questions. We'll be walking around the room. We'll give you some information when you come in. And it sounds like in floating this idea to some of our college partners that our colleges are going to plan to have some of their staff there. What we're hoping is that we will have access to computers where if a student has not applied to a college yet, they can knock that out. If a student has outstanding financial aid information, we can figure that out and start working through what that looks like. So I think the colleges are going to be there to support us as well, to support you and your students. Totally optional, but we think this would be a really good opportunity for you to get to know your students at a place where you know is secured and safe and you've got a place to go, right? And then the second thing we're going to do is really kind of push the opportunity for you to meet with your students on your own. This has been happening over the course of the last 13 years. It's not something that we have really pushed a whole lot, but Randy Boyd, who is our board chairman, he takes his students to pizza at the beginning of every single year. We have other students and mentors like to meet at the local coffee shops. We had a mentor this past year that essentially ran a summer bridge program in her front yard. She pulled a table and some chairs out under a big shade tree in her front yard and essentially tutored a student to get her ready for the placement exam before she began college this fall. The only thing that we're really going to ask with you here on these independent meetings is that you don't put them in the car, that you meet in a public place where there are other people around. You know, protect yourself, protect the student, protect our program, right? But don't put yourself in a situation where you're ever one-on-one, alone, by yourself, always try to go into a public place, include the parents. Doesn't necessarily mean the parents have to come, but always good to just let them know what you're doing so that everybody is kind of out in the open. And again, you will be able to meet with your students one-on-one in the setting of your choice. If you have not let us know your plans for next year, well, we hope that you will join us. We need 9,000 every single year. We've got about 1,500 right now, so we still need 7,500. Tyler has sent you some emails and text messages recently about serving as a mentor in 2022. If you would like to do so and you haven't let us know, you can simply reply to those, or you can hop on the website here, tnAchieves.org/mentors, and complete the returning application. You can also update your information here. So if you want to mentor in a different county or in a different high school, you can do that. And then the new mentor application is there as well. The deadline for this year is December 3rd. So we got about 2.5 months to find 7,500 people. Could also use your help in some other ways. If you have an opportunity for us to come and share this, we are ready. Tyler was at the Madison Kiwanis Club yesterday, just right outside of Nashville. He's got a meeting here in 13 minutes in Marion County with their Chamber of Commerce. So we can do things virtually. We can come in person, whatever works for you. We are happy to come and share this story. Also, if you have a listserv or you just have some friends that you want to share this opportunity with, we can provide you with newsletter content or email content where all you've got to do is copy and paste it. If you're with an organization that has a large newsletter, we can give you a little blurb that you can plop right in there. Just email us. You see the address here, mentors@tnachieves.org, and we will get that information to you so that you can share it across your networks. Our best recruiting tool to find new mentors is you, especially right now when a lot of organizations that we typically visit aren't meeting in person or maybe are not meeting at all. Our current mentors telling their coworkers, their friends, their church groups, their civic clubs, whatever that group of people may be, you are our best way to find new mentors to support students in your community. Another thing you need to help us out, the Tennessee Promise application for students is live. We pulled some data on Monday. We're ahead of where we were last year, about 4,000 applications ahead of where we were at the same time last year. And that's a huge shout out to our professional school counselors that are in the schools, making sure students are completing these applications. Looks like we're on pace for a bigger class than last year, which we are always excited to see here. You can always connect with us on our social media channels. You see that at Tennessee Achieves on all of them. This email address, mentors@tnachieves.org. If you ever would like to talk with me, my email address is the same. It's just Graham, Graham, at tennessee.achieves.org. So replace mentors with Graham. Always happy to answer your questions. It looks like we do have a few questions, and that's all of the presentation I have for you. So let's see what we got here. Kathleen asked, is it okay to meet with our students in person one at a time? Of course. Absolutely no problem there at all. You can invite one student to lunch or to coffee, or if you want to go set up a place and maybe you're there from 9 to 11 and you have one come at 9, one at 9:30, one at 10, one at 10:30, all that would be fine. You can also do the group. Really, we're going to leave that up to what you think would work best for you. Mark said, during March, April, and May, I found my 2021 students were not focused on applying to college. They underestimated the effort needed to meet the college admissions requirement. How can focus and importance be increased? Mark, that's a great question. It's something that we are constantly communicating to students. I think it's something that our mentors are constantly communicating to students. And if anyone on here has some really good advice or has found anything that they work, I think if we, Tennessee Achieves, could figure out how to make 17 and 18-year-olds super responsive and think ahead, we could probably make a lot of money and take that all across the country to organizations all over the place. We know that if you're graduating in May and college starts in August, that's going to be here before you know it. For our high school students, sometimes that feels like it's a very long way away. Again, I think that is a process of we are all working professionals, or have been. We have a large group of retirees in the door, have been working professionals. We know what it means to think ahead and prepare, and our high school students don't always. If our high school students were on the ball and applying on time and getting all their paperwork in, then we wouldn't need to do the mentoring program. So I think be persistent, continue to remind them, don't give up on them. And remember that if this were easy, if these students were going to matriculate to college on their own without any hiccups, we wouldn't have to do this. But that's why we are doing it, is because they do need those extra reminders and that extra encouragement. See, Michael here asks, can we assume that if we send a message to our student through Connect, they receive an email or a text? Yes. So it automatically goes to their email. They can opt out of the text messaging portion of that. Because for some of our students, there's an additional charge with text messaging, but it does always at least prompt an email. The other thing you probably have noticed is if you get a message in Connect, you get an email. If you just reply to that email, it goes and it replies to their message in Connect. So know that if it's easier for you to just reply to that email, it will go back to them. You also ask, is there a way to tell if our students have access Connect? When you're in your profile and you see your students on the left, the ones that are like bolded are the ones. It looks like Tyler is probably typing you a much more robust answer to that. He is our Connect guru, so keep an eye on that. But yes, you are able to tell which ones have activated their accounts versus which ones have not. Nate here asks, consider using Connect for students to log community volunteer hours. So they have to log into the program, despite many invitations to Connect, no one log in. Nate, that's something that we have discussed. We have put some of their requirements in there. So their mandatory webinar that they have to watch is housed in Connect. So in order for them to meet the mandatory webinar deadline or requirement, they have to create a Connect account. So we are trying to do everything that we can to push them into their, there are some challenges in the fact that we're not able to go get in front of them. Makes it difficult, but we're trying the best we can to do everything we can to get them into Connect. We hear you, we know that it can be a challenge, and we will continue to try new things to get them onto the platform. Saw someone gave Tyler a shout out. Tyler is the best. He's super responsive. And I know it sounds like I don't ever get any negative feedback on Tyler. So I know that Tyler is always helpful for our mentors. Hope that you're utilizing Tyler and our entire staff. Let's see. Michael asked, can we tell if they actually looked at our message? Looks like Tyler is answering that question for you as well. I'm not sure about that one. So I'll give Tyler a second to type an answer out to you there. Anyone else have any questions? It looks like we have answered everything in the chat. Give it just a second. Well, again, thank you so much for hopping on today to learn more about what it looks like to mentor with us next year. I hope that you can see that we are truly taking your feedback and trying to implement it. We were kind of leaning towards staying virtual next year, and then the survey came out, and we're hearing from you that you want an in-person option. So we're going to do an in-person option. So I hope you know that we have an idea, having administered this program for 13 years, of what we think will be a successful program. And, most importantly for us is what is impactful and what is successful for students. That being said, we also want to create a program that you enjoy, right? So we want you to impact students. We want students to find success, but we want you to enjoy the program also. And so we made a pivot, and we're going to try to do some in-person things with you next year. We have also heard that those big crowded high school meetings were not the most productive. So we're going to shy away from those going forward, I think. So we're constantly trying to take your feedback, student feedback, and implement it. And I hope you can see that. I hope you know that we are trying. Saw a question about STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. Those are some really in-demand fields here in Tennessee. For your friends that have not that have mentor or have applied but haven't heard from us. Tyler recorded the mentor training this week. We're going to get that out to them really soon. That will be their next step in the process. Will you be letting us know when college is welcome? Yes. So Carol asked, sort of the open houses. Tyler has put together a schedule. We have not sent it to the colleges yet to reserve space, but we will have that available to you soon. And we're excited about that. The colleges seem excited about that. I think it has the potential to be a really cool opportunity for students to get to know you, meet you in person, and get them on a college campus. And then let's also knock out some of those requirements while we have them. So that's something that we're really excited about. All right, well, that looks like everything. Again, if you ever have questions or need anything from us, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Tyler, Ben still helps out a ton with the mentoring program. You can reach out to any of us. We appreciate you being here. And thanks so much. Well, one more question. Jan says, we thought we could not tutor a student. You know, my guess would be a lot of our mentors would not be comfortable tutoring a student. I know as someone who struggled mightily in college math classes, if a student came to me with math help, I would not be the guy for that. But you know, if a student comes to you and is having academic challenges and you feel comfortable with that is fine. We would certainly not. We have about 1,000 of our mentors are actually community college staff and faculty. You would probably feel very comfortable helping a student out with college level math, where I would not. So if that is where you fall into this, of course, please feel free. But if you do have a student that comes to you with academic struggles and they don't know where to go, let us know and we'll find a resource for them. So either way works for us. All right, well, thanks again for being here. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And if we can ever help you out with anything, please let me know. Thanks so much.